What's going on, guys? Baseball Stud 294 back again with another gun review today. Now today what we'll be looking at is the G&G Armament CM16 Raider L or long variant in black. So let's get right into this quick review. Alright guys, now as always when you first open the box you see a few different pieces of paper, them being the Airsoft GI quality control, being that I did get the gun from Airsoft GI, and a lot of companies are starting to do this. It's just simply list the chrono feet per second that the gun has before they shipped it to you, and basically saying that it passed the visual and the internal inspections. The next thing it comes with is the Airsoft Guns catalog from G&G. Now this is from 2012, since I did get last year's model. I don't believe they released the 2013 version yet. It's extremely early for that, but you will get one of those. It folds out. It's a significantly large poster, so it's a pretty cool addition. And then also you'll get G&G and the Combat Machines fold-out style instruction manual. It's got a decent amount of information. It's got some warranty and website stuff listed on there, an exploded diagram which you can see in frame here, and then also has just simple charging instructions, how to function the gun, and it is both-sided, so something cool to look forward to and look through. Alright guys, now once you get past all the paperwork and everything, this is what you'll actually see when you get to the gun. Of course, it is not covered with styrofoam or anything. It's just housed in this simple plastic material. It's not the sturdiest, but it does keep the gun safe, and it doesn't move around, so it stays in one place, so it does its purpose. Of course, you have the gun included. You will have a 450 round full metal high cap magazine, simple unjamming rod, and then another thing cool to note is the BBs they give you are decent and you can use them. They're 0.2 gram, you get 1,000 of them, and they are the G&G BBs, so these are nice. You can go ahead and use those. So another thing to note is if you do get the combo package, I'll turn the camera here, right in this empty slot you would get an 8.4 volt battery, as well as over here this would be a very simple smart charger. So you do have two options aside from the tan and black choice in the gun. You can get the combo, which comes with the charger and battery, or you can get the simple just gun, which is what I did. Okay guys, now looking at the gun itself, it is important to note this is the Sportline series. Now being that it is Sportline, it is of course plastic. Actually the G&G plastic is one of the sturdiest that I've ever gotten to hold or gotten to use. It is a polymer variant, so it's polymer with nylon reinforced plastic, so it's incredibly strong, and it does have this nice matte finish, so it doesn't actually look like plastic, which is another nice feature. Now being that it is plastic, all the rails including the wrist system are unfortunately plastic, but again it is very strong, so it can support any of your metal attachments, whether it's a foregrip, an optic, any laser sights, things like that. You can put those on and it won't chip away at the plastic or anything like that, and it probably can support a significant amount of drops too out in the field, so not a huge concern there. Okay guys, now looking at the front half of the gun, starting with the rail system being at the middle of the frame here, it is, as I mentioned, comprised of plastic, so I was concerned that there was going to be some wobble between the upper receiver and the handguard itself, so I was considering buying one of those little locking pieces for the upper Picatinny system. However, once I got it, contrary to my belief, there is absolutely no wobble, so there shouldn't be any problems if you wanted to put on a forward grip or anything like that. You won't have any wobble issues, so I like that feature. The next, also some aesthetics. It does have mil-spec numbering, as you can probably see. The tan version will have the exact same thing. It starts with L28, goes all the way down to L14. L standing for left, of course, so the right will have an R, top will have a T, and the bottom, well, you can guess it, it has a B. So I thought that's a nice addition. Doesn't really aid the gun in anything, but it does look cool. You also have a, right here, it's a 1-point full metal sling attachment, which is pretty standard on any M4 AEG, so nothing special. And then again, as I mentioned, just being that this is the front of the gun, it does have the one-piece full metal barrel. So again, if you wanted to remove the triangle sight, you will not be able to. You have to take off the whole barrel. So lastly, as I said I would mention this, there are two important topics I want to talk about with this flash hider here. So let me bring it into frame for you. I'm going to zoom in slightly. If it'll zoom in, there we go. Okay, so important things to note here. If you see this little chip, that is not broken. That's actually how it's supposed to be. That's actually mimicking the real steel version, because this is actually designed to break through barbed wire on the real steel M4s. So don't worry if you get your gun and you think, oh, there's a chip in the flash hider. Nope. that's supposed to be there. Now, the other major concern is a lot of people like to put suppressors on these things or tracer units. Now, if you're familiar with taking these off, you'll see the screw. Well, that's not a screw, it's a roll pin. Now, all of the new CM models are in compliance with the United States federal law of requiring flash hiders, orange flash hiders, to be on our airsoft guns. So what G&G did is they put roll pins in so you cannot remove them. The only way to get this off now is you actually have to drill off or Dremel off the whole piece of this front flash hider, all the way down to the second ring, and then you have to chip away at these surrounding pieces of orange flash hider. It is glued on, so that makes it even more difficult, enough to actually expose the roll pin itself, in which case you can take some pliers, pull that out fairly simplistically, and you're now able to take your flash hider off. So I just wanted to note that because there are some issues with trying to get these off. It was a pretty shocking surprise to me, but I was happy to figure out that I can take it off. It's just going to take a lot of more work. So again, if you have a suppressor you want to put on here, it does have the 14mm counterclockwise threads. However, you're going to be in for a little bit more work than what you're used to, but it can be done. Okay guys, now moving back to the actual receiver of the gun, not a whole lot to talk about here. I just want to mention that it does support the Combat Machines. It basically states Combat Machine 6mm pellet AEG semi-auto system. So kind of cool. Some people aren't a fan of it. I personally like it. It is just brushed on, and that's to be expected with a polymer body. You also get a warning sticker. Use a little Goo Gone. You'll have no problems getting that off without any adhesive residue on your gun itself. It states right here above the trigger, complete AEG series, MFG by Combat Machine, made in Taiwan. So that would be one trademark I could probably do without, but you know, for 140 bucks I can't complain. It does have a Tango down grip as opposed to a standard M4 pistol grip, so I like these. They're far more ergonomic, so it's more comfortable. It doesn't have the standard little, M4 finger bump here, the classic finger bump, whatever you want to call that. I'm not quite sure what it is, but that little bump that comes right out at the top between your trigger finger and your middle finger. So it doesn't have that, which is nice. Also, another thing to mention, the 450 round tannish metal high cap does snap in very nicely, and it holds it securely. There is a little bit of wobble, not a whole lot, but G&G magazines tend to be a little bit thinner than other brands, so that's to be expected. Also, while we're looking at this, I'm going to see if I can get this into frame. It says 5.56mm by 45 on the magazine, a nice little cool addition. So I thought that was nice. The last thing I want to mention while looking at the actual receiver of the gun is it does have a very nice snap when you put the selector switch into semi. So see if I can do this real quick. Usually in most guns you miss semi-automatic, or it can slide very easily out of it, but this G&G Combat Machine snaps really nicely and holds its select fire very nicely, so I like that. Housed inside here, of course, is an 8mm copper bushing full metal gearbox. It's comprised of zinc, and it is reinforced slightly at the front of the gearbox. So it also contains, it's about an M100, maybe an M110 spring, but it's not going to get you very high feet per second. So it's got a decent shim job, but I always, if you have the know-how, go ahead and go read through it. Just to make sure that it's done properly and it's greased up properly. So overall, the receiver looks nice. Let's move on back now. Okay guys, now looking at the back half of the gun, it does have your standard crane stock. That being said, this gun is wired to the rear, so your batteries will be housed in the stock itself. Now the only batteries that will actually fit into this are your nunchuck style batteries, just like this, with a small type Tamiya connector. So do not waste your money on a LiPo battery. This gun is not LiPo ready, so the highest voltage it can take is 9.6 volts. So whether you go with that or an 8.4, it's up to you, but do not get a LiPo. That will be a waste of cash. It is 6 position, and it will function exactly like an LE stock. You push down on the lever here and it'll pull and lock into place, and you have 6 options to choose whichever fits you best. And it's all supported by a full metal buffer tube. Another thing I want to mention too is there's absolutely no wobble in the stock at all. So you can extend this a little bit here and the stock doesn't seem to wobble, which is very nice, keeps it a little bit more accurate and more realistic for you. While we're looking at this, also a nice thing to note is these little caps are notorious for falling out, so go ahead and super glue those down before you go out and play. If they do fall out, it's not the end of the world, but I've not been able to find replacements for these, so I'm going to go ahead and glue those down in the near future before I play, so it's a good idea to do that for yourself as well. It won't harm the gun if you lose it, but it's annoying to have your your battery just kind of hanging out the side of your stock. So just a word to the wise there. Also, to actually put your battery in here, there's two little clips. You can see them kind of in this angle, but there's one here and there's one on the other side. To get this out, you very simply just push down on those tabs and you can see this rubber butt plate coming off. It's a little bit challenging to do, but it will come off and this little cap will pop out, and then of course it'll expose your actual wiring here. So that's where you would plug it in, and then there's two little slots here, if you can see that. I know the camera angle is kind of bad. See if I can get lighting help. It doesn't look like it, but there's two little slots on either side of here to put the actual battery in, just like this. Kind of got to finagle it a little bit, and then of course if you were to actually connect the battery, you would just connect it just like that, and then boom, you're good to go. So that's just another little nice feature as well. Alright guys, now as we're getting towards the end of this video, I did want to go ahead and flip the gun over since it hasn't been shown yet in the video, and just show you some of the features on the right side of the gun. It does feature a forward assist. Unfortunately, being that it's a Sportline series, it does not actually function in releasing the tension of your spring, but it is spring loaded with a decent pressure spring actually, so you can go ahead and compress it. Doesn't really help you in any sort of way though. As well as the charging handle, being that it is metal, it still does not release the dust cover. You have to simply open it up with your finger. Now what I did do is I actually bent this spring on purpose. I took off the dust cover and bent it so that my dust cover does stay open, as opposed to it snapping shut like that when you first get it. It does expose your hop up, pretty standard. It's got a little green wheel, so you can go ahead and push it forward for more hop, push it back for less hop. It's a plastic hop up unit. It's not a one-piece metal, but it is decent. However, it does have a stock brass barrel, which is not the greatest, but the hop up unit slightly makes up for that. It's a decent hop up unit itself. So also on here is your mag release button. Pretty standard on the M4s. It's got a decent amount of spring tension behind it, so you have to press it down fairly hard, which is nice. You won't have your magazine falling out anytime when you're just running around. So that again will be this side of the gun. Alright guys, and that is it. That was the review of the Combat Machine CM16 L in black. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. It's been a decent gun so far, and I'm really excited to start working on it and help to improve on the internals and things like that. So for beginners, this is an excellent gun to get. You get your wrist. It is a very strong polymer. You get a decent torque motor. You get great internals, a full metal gearbox. You get some decent bushings. Not the greatest barrel, but it will work. It is a metal brass barrel, but if you are going to purchase this gun, I suggest purchasing an upgraded Type bore barrel with it, just to increase the range of this gun slightly. But overall, for 140 bucks, I don't think you can beat this anywhere. So feel free to leave any comments you guys have about further in-depth questions in the comments bar, or send me a private message. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check back with any updates I have on this project gun. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.